I've never even thought of it.
When did it occur to you that you actually had something to say?
Oh, that's a tough one. And I don't know, to be honest, I don't know when it shifted, because my first desire to get on the stage was absolutely 100% self-centered, egocentric. Like, it was the desire to be seen in a certain way, to say certain things, and to create this persona that I thought once was fixed in people's minds, then I'd feel okay with myself. Like, it was the chameleon at large. Like, I really just wanted to be something that I wasn't, in the hope that I'd be finally accepted for who I was, even though I wasn't being authentic to who I was. Then there was a moment where this is in Perth. He completely rattled my cage. I went walking through Perth, completely lost, and I walked up this alleyway and I witnessed a lady having a heart attack. And so, I was one of the guys that helped perform CPR on her until the ambulance came. And the ambos took over, revived her, then she died again, and they revived her and they put her on a stretcher. And we wheeled the stretcher down the alleyway to the street, and then we put the gurney in the back of the ambulance. The ambulance doors just literally shut, and the ambulance took off, and it was just me. And then I remember looking around, and I looked down, and there was a plaque on the road that said October 1974, and that was the year that I was born, the month that I was born. And I remember thinking that time, there's no coincidence here. And it was almost like that sparked something. Like, if you're going to take the stage, you got to use it for something a little bit more meaningful than just trying to build a persona or build the self-image or have your egotistical needs met. And I don't even know how conscious I was of this at that moment, but in reflection I can see how all the pieces of the puzzle completely fell together. I'd been trying to be something that I wasn't, and I made a deal with myself that I wasn't going to say anything unless it was 100% true. I wasn't going to share anything with anyone unless, my goal was, at a baseline, you've got to be 95% congruent. There's a 5% leeway where you can talk about things you're going to do and talk about things that you have done, and you can maybe, polish things up here and there, but you've got to be 95% congruent, otherwise you can't take the stage. And that was the deal that I made with myself. And I still remember the very first event that I did after that was at the Vibe North Sydney. And I remember halfway through the event, I remember thinking to myself, I don't even care if I make a sale, because I literally felt like this elevation of self. I felt elevated, and I was looking down as I was sharing my story, and I saw the lights switching on the people around me, and a lady came up to me afterwards. She goes, "Oh my God, it's like you've got this prophetic gift with words." And it was at that moment I was like, I've got to share this. I've got to do this more. And that's when, I think it all started to really start to fall together. What was really strange is the more honest I was, the more interested people became. The more authentic I was, the more attention that I got. And it was so counterintuitive, because I thought I had to be something different than what I was in order to get the attention, in order to get the engagement. But the moment I started being real and true and authentic to myself was when the moment that it all started to change. And I think that's the problem, is I think sometimes people look at their own story, myself included, and we think that it's not quite enough. And we think we've got to add some bells and whistles. But what I've learned is people don't relate to the bells and whistles, they relate to the mud and the blood, and the sweat and the tears. And so for me, finding my voice was really about me getting out of the way and stop trying to package my story in a way that I thought was commercially acceptable, and start sharing my story in a way that was human and just being real. It gave me the ability to share my stories, to share my lowest lows, my highest highs, my muddiest of mud, and then have people come up to me and go, yeah, I can really relate to that. Rather than thinking there was something wrong with me, I started to realize that people relate to me. Rather than thinking that, people saw me as something bad, they started to see me as something that was, giving them hope on their own journey. Every time I did an event and people would come up and they'd share their story of transformation, I remember just thinking to myself, my voice isn't loud enough. Like, my voice, I need more people to hear my voice. And that's when when we realized and we clicked onto social media, that's when I was like, right, my actual narrative was, and I even said this to Matthias, I was like, Matthias, I want to take the transformations we have in the room, with these groups of, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 people, and I said, I want to take this to the world. I want you to help me package my voice, share my voice, distribute my voice in a way where we can actually, rather than changing 100 lives, over 3 days and do that like 4 times a year, how do we change 100 lives a minute? How do we change 100 lives a second? And it all happened, it all came true. And it all started because I just wanted to share my voice. It all started because I just wanted to share my message. And I now look at other people who are, who are thinking about their journey or starting the journey. I'm like, man, if you could only see the view from where I'm sitting right now, and it's got nothing to do with the material aspects of it and everything to do with the understanding that we all have something to share. We all have a story that if it's shared in the right way, in the right context, you know, with the right frame, it's going to change people's lives. And when to think, I'm a business dude, I'm just a business dude, right? That's all I am. But when you think of, you know, you're a baker, you're an electrician, you're a mechanic, you're a candlestick maker, every single person in any industry, they've all got their own story too. Every business is a movement, and other businesses are creating major movements. You look at what Elon Musk is doing, you look at what Zuckerberg has done, you look at what Steve Jobs has done. They've changed the world through business. You know, yes, they've become very wealthy in the process, but how many lives have they changed? That's just the way the universe works. When you give more than you've got and you do it in a way that impacts others, it gives you more than you know what to do with it. It's all about giving. And the more you give, the more you get. It's as simple as that. Once upon a time, in order for your voice to be heard, you either had to know someone in television, okay, you either had to know someone on radio, you know, or if you didn't know someone on television or radio, you need to have millions of dollars in equipment and personnel and a broadcast license to be able to get your voice out there. Now, all we need is a smartphone, an internet connection and access to a platform, and we now have a platform to share our voice. This is the first time in history that we can be heard at a level that is unprecedented from a community's perspective. You know, once upon a time, you look at Martin Luther King, you look at, you know, all the greats, Mahatma Gandhi, those motherfuckers had to hustle to be heard. They had to hustle to be heard. They had to trek, they had to walk, they had to be witness and bear witness and experience, in some cases, extreme levels of violence. We can be heard from our bed. The power of just one idea, one video, you know, all it takes is one piece of content and it can change the entire world. You look at Chewbacca lady, the lady who put on a Chewbacca mask that she bought for her kids. You know, 380 million odd views in like 24 or 48 hours. It was the most viral live video in the history of Facebook Live at the time that it happened. You know, she got invited to Facebook with Zuckerberg. She got invited to the White House to have, you know, coffee with Obama. I don't know, I just sit there in awe, and I'm in awe of the platforms. I'm in awe of technology. I'm in awe of the internet. I'm in awe of all these other personalities that do what they do. I remember when we first launched the social experiment, I thought 4,000 views was amazing. And now we've got 40 videos over 1 million views, and we've got, you know, a dozen plus videos over 20 million views. It reminds me of my responsibility. Every viral video reminds me that I have a responsibility to the people. A voice without a message is noise. I'll say that again, a voice without a message is noise. We need to learn how to shape our voice so that it's not just noise. It has to be insightful, it has to be entertaining, it has to be informative, educating, in some cases funny, but it has to be able to land in a specific way where someone can hear that noise and go, that noise makes sense, that noise resonates. It resonates in some of the deepest parts of my soul, and that's what creates the movement. You don't create a movement by making noise, you create a movement by sharing a message.
What do you think would happen if you hadn't have been that brave to share your message and your story?
If I hadn't have found the courage to share my story, there would be kids going home to families where one of the parents would be absent, not because they're not there, because they're dead. We don't just build businesses, we save lives. And the thought, I've never even thought of it, of taking this out of the timeline of this existence and having all those people who were ready to go, like follow through. I think about, when you ask that question, I think about the kids who have parents who are alive. I think about the families who are still together. I think about, you know, the people who have been able to do whatever they've done as a result of the message that they heard, and I think you take that away, that's heartbreaking. And I'm just one person. Share your voice. It's time to be heard. Everyone has a voice. For some people, they're just making noise. Find your voice. Speak up. Share.